Welcome to week 3 of Valencia Marathon training. So we've just 7 weeks to go now until the big day, and 2 below par weeks in the first 2 weeks of these vlogs. See if I can get back on track, get some solid marathon training in this week as I go to Beacon Hill Parkrun and I talk you through my long run for the week.
And we're off at the start of Beacon Hill Country Park Parkrun. So I'm just following Emma in the blacktop with Lola, and we are heading off into the woods. The first section is a little bit uphill, as is most of the parkrun, to be honest. So at this point I'm really struggling to get my legs going. It's not been a particularly quick pace to start this parkrun. Finding myself just going further and further backwards, and this feels like a real hard effort to try and keep up this pace. So it was very difficult at the start, and I never really thought like I'm going to find my feet until I get to the top of the hill. I'm thinking this hill's going to go on for about 1.5 miles, and I've just got to keep going, keep persevering until I get to the top of the hill and I can enjoy the downhill. To add to this, I hadn't synced my GPS properly before the start, so it was showing all kinds of readings and saying that I was tracking for somewhere in around a 25-minute parkrun, running about 8-minute mile pace, which for me is not really moving at all at a parkrun. Really struggling to put the effort in, and the pace was just not showing. So we've got a little bit of a respite here where we run down the hill. So we've run up it to then run down, and then we're going back up the same hill just after. So really was a lot of elevation in the first part of this parkrun. Now this section was actually quite welcome, a section where it was a gradual downhill just after about 1 mile or so of uphill, so really did give my legs a little bit of a break and able to run at more of a normal pace at this point. It was a lovely avenue of trees really in the autumnal colours with all the leaves on the floor. We then passed some polar bears just on the left, and the next sort of statue that was coming up was some stones, I believe something to do with the time or the months. I'm not quite sure what the arrangement was there, but something to distract yourself from the parkrun. So this clip just shows quite how far you've climbed. So you can see over the left hand side all the climb we've already had, and then if you just look on the right hand side here, you'll see the trig point coming up. So we're soon coming up to the top of Beacon Hill, which is about halfway through the parkrun.
Thank you, Marshall.
And there we go, some welcome downhill. So as Lola's just bombing off in the front, and she's got her lefts and rights all in the right way. So we're heading down the hill now. You can see some runners as we pass who are still heading up the hill. They've got that all to enjoy still, but we are on our descent and just coming up to the last mile. So things are going to pick up a little bit from here.
Got to catch up.
So I'm usually a little bit quicker on the downhills than Emma, even though she's a faster runner than me. I think my weight and having that advantage really does help me on the downhills. But as you can see this morning, as much as she was waiting around and trying to slow down, that I just wasn't going to catch her up. So this is coming into the last sort of minute of the parkrun. You take a left, and we turn right at the end of this passing onto the field. So I'm just going to see how this pans out. And Lola's really good with the directions here. So she's spotted we're going down here. We're taking a right, and then we're heading towards the cones and into the finish of parkrun.
Good girl. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Lola. Lola. Well done, darling. Well done. Well done. Well done, sausage.
The doggies should have a barcode.
Yeah. She's probably done about 100.
So that's Beacon Hill Parkrun, or whatever it's called, Beacon Country Park, Beacon Hill, done in a time of 21:40, which, going out on my way out, up them hills, it's clocking more for like a 25:26, but did soon catch that up back on the downhill. I was thinking maybe get under sort of 23, 24, but actually under 22. I'll take that on that course. That's a good effort. Though the pace isn't there because of the course, it's like 7:20 pace. It's all about the effort, and that gave me a good tempo effort this morning. I began this week with a easy hour on Monday, so what was an easy hour in the plan, what I did wasn't actually how it felt. It did feel a little bit harder than usual. I did try to keep that pace really low, but I was just sweating a lot, and it was obvious that something wasn't quite right on Monday. I could tell really that I had a meeting in the evening on Monday and just felt like I couldn't stop coughing really. It's kind of that dry throat. I sometimes get it after pushing like too hard at a short, like a 5k or 10k or something where I've pushed hard on a session. I sometimes get that quite dry cough that seems to go away, but this seems like it was more of a sort of a bit of a virus, more of a cold kind of thing than just pushing myself too hard, because I hadn't run Sunday and I just ran easy on Monday, so it did develop into a little bit worse on Tuesday, which was no real point for me to do a session on Tuesday. Saw this as the opportunity to just try and rest, see if it will go, and then try to run easy again on Wednesday. On Wednesday night I ran with Sam, which would have been a good test to see how my cold was feeling, as just run a little bit quicker than I do on the easy run. So I'd gone and done 3.5 miles before I saw Sam, and then rolled into 6 miles at a slightly quicker pace, but all of it felt pretty good, so it's a good sign really that probably over the most of it, and I could get back at trying to do a session on Thursday. So I did, after the run, go and have it's about an hour on Zwift actually, just to spin the legs. Felt pretty good doing that. I got carried away trying to go for a bit of a segment, which probably didn't do my legs the best or my general recovery, but it was a bit of fun, to be honest, and did enjoy that on Wednesday night. So on to Thursday, and my first session of the week, unfortunately, this late in the week. And what I'd got planned was to do some 4-minute intervals, and I knew that 4 minutes was going to be roughly a K for me at the pace I was running at the moment. So running those 4-minute kilometres, 6:25-ish per mile, would be a good sort of test really over a longer rep, like a 4-minute, as opposed to more of a 90 seconds, 2 minutes, 3-minute rep. So it was a decent session. I didn't really, hit the paces I wanted. I hit that kind of 1k within the 4 minutes, but I kind of secretly wanted a little bit more than that, but I pushed into the low 6-minute miles on these reps. But in the end I did 6 of these with a 75 seconds jog recovery, so that's fairly short for something of a rep this length for me. So decent session ticked off, and then went into coaching on Thursday night. So Thursday coaching really for me was the highlight of this week, I'd say, so far, and I'll tell you why. Because I've started this group at the start of the spring really, and we've been trying to build it up, trying to get a bit more interest there to benefit the runners there really, that we'll have more people to run with, more people at similar paces to pull you along. And now we've got sort of a regular cast of around 5 or 6 runners, which we've got capacity to have a lot more runners there too. As we head into winter, it's a safe space for you to run in the dark as part of a group and within a session environment. So what's particularly pleased me about that is seeing everyone's progress, that everyone there on Thursday had improved we're targeting more like 5Ks and 10Ks with the sessions. So to use parkrun as an example, we've got people who were running 32 who are now running 28 for parkrun. We've got people who have come from finishing couch to 5K and now recently done a 32 parkrun, and then runners at the higher end sort of going for that 20-minute parkrun as well. So a real good spread there, and it encourages me that people are making progress, whether it's through coming to the sessions, whether it's just sparked a bit of belief that they can run faster at these parkruns. But it's great to hear every week how people are coming along. And if you were interested in coming along to these sessions and adding to the numbers and improving your times and in the local area of Gresley, Swadlincote, Burton-on-Trent and the surrounding area, be sure to check out my running coaching page and the Facebook page, which I put a session on every week. They're a free session to come along to, and even if you couldn't make the session, you're still getting a few session ideas that you can try by yourself too.
I also want to say a massive well done to Ava Green on the bike here with her dad Jamie. She did a 9:13 at Junior Parkrun, which was a great time for 2K. Well done, Ava.
Back to the training week now, and Friday morning, because I'd done a session on Thursday, was an easy day. So this was an easy, I think it's just under 7 miles I did with Emma in the morning before work, and with a parkrun in mind on Saturday, it's nice to just run easy that day without doing back-to-back sessions. So good run on Friday morning. And after a tough parkrun this morning, one that was uphill, downhill, sort of the first half of it was up the massive hill and the last bit was down the hill. It's taken a little bit of a toll on my body, so got a bit of a stiff back, so it's good to come out for a run this afternoon just to try and shake it off a little bit ahead of my session tomorrow. So going into my session tomorrow in a bit more detail, that I'm going to do a 20-mile long run, which is the one I wanted to do for the last couple of weeks now really. With 7 weeks to go, then to try and maintain similar distance on my long run. So if I'm getting enough volume in there on the long run, getting my legs used to running for, it's going to be the best part of 2.5 hours really, maybe 2 hours 40 if it's at 8-minute miles. I'd probably like to cut down a little bit quicker than that. So getting used to being out my feet that long, which is really going to make a difference in the marathon. I don't want to go in undercooked, not doing enough of these runs. My plan is to do it at Albert Village Lake, where I've got about 2.5 miles warm up to run there. I can take my water, I can take some gels. I've got, it's roughly a 2K loop, about 1.2 miles around the lake, that I'll have access to this throughout. A little bit boring doing so many laps, but it makes a difference knowing that I can have my water, my fuel, and the session. What I'm going to aim to do is 3x5k at marathon pace, so we're looking around 650s. It's like my current marathon pace and what sort of my minimum target is for Valencia. I'd obviously like my marathon pace to be a bit quicker than this, but I think running at around 630s for 5k, which is like my PB at the moment really, my current best is about 620 kind of pace, would be hard work. So I'm going to go with that, 3x5k within a 20-mile long run. Out here on Sunday, and today's session I've got is 3x3 miles, so I'm going to do a 4-mile warm-up, which I'm just nearing the end of now, 3 miles at around 650 pace, around marathon effort, marathon pace, and then I'm going to have a 1 mile jog in between these, so, and then after the last one, so it'll be 4 miles up, 3x3 miles with a mile recovery, and then 4 miles after on the way back home. So that's the first 3 miles done, bang on target. That was exactly just under 650 per mile, just under 20:30 for the 3 miles, so felt pretty comfortable. I'm now 8 miles in. I just took my first 40 gram gel on board at the end of that rep. the thought behind this is I want to get practicing taking gels while I'm running at marathon effort. It's no good to me taking one on the recovery because I don't know how my stomach's going to react to how I take them at marathon effort then. So I've got 2 more to go after 1 mile jog. I'm probably going to take a second gel to the start of the 3rd rep and see how it goes. I don't think I really need 3 today on each of the individual reps. It'll be a bit too close together, taking one 40-gram gel every 4 miles. So recovering on this one and then get into it for the 2nd and the 3rd reps. So it's rep 2 done now, the 2nd 3rd mile rep, and it was a little bit quicker again, so I was about 6:48 pace average for that, so it was about 20:20. So good little rep there. Let's get this last one done now and the rest of the long run.
I was able to complete the session, complete that 3rd 3 mile rep in just over 20 minutes. So I was pushing down to 6:45 pace for that. It was about 20:10 for that last rep. So feel like I could kick on a little bit in that last rep. I took my gel just at the start of that rep. So it simulates having those gels at marathon pace, which is what I need for marathon training. And it completed my run I was about 15 miles then. I still had 5 miles easy to jog and run home. So I felt that by taking the 2 gels within my session and within the long run, which is something I've not really done so far, as I've not built the long run up that far, I've managed to find that the 20 mile this morning felt easier than the last time I've done, say, a 16 or an 18 mile, just because I was fueling. So that's something I've got to take forward into next week's session. Well, actually, next week I'll have a half marathon, but the continuing sessions in the next 7 weeks going into Valencia Marathon, that I want to get 2 to 3 gels really in this time on board, so that I'm practicing using them. I'm running and being in a better state, really, having the energy to run. And it's helping my recovery, hopefully, after the sessions. That if I do run in a session or a long run and find that I'm really struggling in the last couple of miles, then it's going to impact on my next couple of days of training. So hopefully after that, I'm just a little bit sore, a little bit stiff after doing the 20 miles, but having fueled appropriately, I feel like I could go again, running just an easy run tomorrow and hit my session on Tuesday. And the week as a whole was pretty good, really. What I wanted to do this week, in week 3 of the marathon training, was to stop the rot in the first couple of weeks, where I got to 40 miles in each of the weeks, but missed a couple of key sessions. I missed a long run last week. So to get that long run in, to get a session in on a Thursday, I had a good effort at parkrun yesterday, and the only really one that I missed out on was Tuesday's session. But through to illness, really, I thought that taking that night off and then running the rest of the week would really help it, and be able to get that session in on Thursday as well was a good week in the whole, really. So I think going into next week, what I'll try and do is run every day if I can, hit that session on a Tuesday if I want to. So should be feeling good to hit that session on Tuesday, get plenty of mileage in, maybe 1 or 2 double days in there, and a little bit of cross training on the bike if I can fit it in. So probably looking at somewhere towards 60 to 70 miles next week, as I'll have works up half at the weekend. So the mileage will be down slightly off the long run, and I don't really want to be over sort of doing it in training this week with that half on the horizon. So I'll talk about that in next week's video, but as it stands, that's a good week ticked off. 63 miles for this week. It's a lot better than the 40s in the previous weeks. I've done what I wanted to, and that concludes week 3 of Valencia Marathon training.